Well, hi kids! I'm showing a new feature in DrawThings called Offload Server. DrawThings is the Stable Diffusion client for Mac and iOS. It's coded in Swift, so it's optimized for Apple hardware. There's no subscription, it's free on the app stores, and can also be downloaded from DrawThings.ai. Offload Server is exactly what it sounds like. It allows me to offload a render from my iPhone to my Mac. I just need a copy of DrawThings running on each device. Now, Offload Server uses a communication protocol called gRPC. It's an app-to-app standard maintained by Google, that's the G, and it runs more or less invisibly over your existing Wi-Fi. This is a step up from Automatic 1111's HTTP API. Now, unlike the API, gRPC-Server is stateless, meaning it's more flexible and hooked at a lower level into the app. We can load complex projects using multiple control images. We can use masks, scripts in painting, all the high-end features. Now, also, all the models that are on the server, in this case on my Mac, are available to use from the client, which is a good thing because I can't squeeze another Flux model onto my phone. And there's more news. There's also gRPC-Server-CLI, which is a DrawThings as a command line interface. It's also free to download for macOS and Linux. And I'll have more info after the tutorial. So let's set up the offline server. I have an iPhone and a Mac. They each have DrawThings already installed, and they're both on the same Wi-Fi network. I'll set my Mac as the gRPC server inside DrawThings under the advanced settings, all the way at the bottom. Now I enable API server and switch from HTTP to gRPC. I won't change the port, but I enable transport security and set the IP to allow all connections over my network. I'm switching on response compression and enable model browsing. For security reasons, the gRPC server will need to be restarted and the model browsing re-enabled each time. Now, the server settings are not saved. These are just live settings outside of any project, same as the old API. On my iPhone, I'm going to switch on the server icon down in the side rail. The pop-up allows me to choose the server, and I should see a small green Wi-Fi symbol confirming the connection. Back in the canvas window, I can see the Wi-Fi connection in the top left corner. And now I can set up a render, and I can use scripting, the mood board, any of the advanced features. When I hit generate, the render will be passed to the server automatically. There's nothing else to set up. With browse models enabled, my phone's local models show at the top of the list, followed by the server's models. And the same browsing works for LoRa and for control nets. When I render through the server, images are stored on the phone in the DrawThings project just as if they were rendered on the phone originally. There's nothing saved on my Mac, although I do get visual confirmation that it's rendering. If the server gets disconnected, the render is lost, I think, but you still have the parameters in the project on the phone. Now, the server will queue renders even from multiple clients, and the server is still usable as DrawThings. It will manage the jobs and render as soon as it becomes free. In the case of a model or a LoRa being on my phone and not on the server, that model will be pushed up to the server before the render can start. Now, that's all for the tutorial, so if you think this video might help others, give it a like and subscribe if you want to be notified of my future videos. But now let's get back to the second news, which is the gRPC-Server-CLI, or command line interface for macOS and Linux. Now, to be honest, I have not used this because I don't have the hardware for it. I've been following community members who've gotten it running under Docker and on Google Colab, and development is ongoing. This is just the start. gRPC is an open source protocol, so this opens a path to build new interfaces and potentially custom workflows. Everything from comfy UI nodes to Photoshop plugins and whatever else can happen with AI image gen. As I understand it, I can send directly to DrawThings control layers, like for instance sending a Z buffer from a Unity camera as a depth map, and then receiving back a base 64 render that's better than PNG quality. Better quality and more control than with API. Now, to that end, the gRPC-Server-CLI is now available for macOS and Linux, and there's even a Linux version that uses CUDA drivers for NVIDIA GPUs. I'm putting the link to the GitHub binaries in the video description. These are not ready-to-use apps. The Mac build requires Xcode and Homebrew. The Linux version has been tested with Ubuntu, and I think there are some additional libraries to install, like Swift for Linux and the NVIDIA drivers, of course. There's no Windows version, but the CUDA Accelerated Server for Linux supports RTX 20 series, 30s, 40s, A100, and H100 NVIDIA cards. There are additional notes on the DrawThings GitHub, and I'm a bit over my head on this topic already, so I'm going to cut this one short. I hope you had a learn, and I will see you next time.